I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Griffin, would you lead us in a flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sunshine Law Statement. All requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been met for this meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Oradell. Notice of this meeting was filed with the record in Town News and all persons requesting such notice. Mr. Darian, would you read the mission statement?
The Oradell Public School District is dedicated to the ongoing pursuit of educational excellence through comprehensive, innovative curriculum and instruction. The district is committed to providing opportunities for social, emotional, and academic discovery to foster curiosity, courage, and character. Our goal is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who are self-directed, resilient, productive, responsible citizens.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ms. Acosta? Mrs. Neekum?
Here.
Mrs. Downing? Here. Mr. Griffin?
Here.
Mrs. Norian? Mrs. Walker? Mr. Walsh? Mr. Darian?
Here.
Mrs. Nichols?
Here, open to the public for agenda items only. Not seeing any, we'll move to my report, and we're going to open with Mr. Jeffrey Bliss, our auditor, who's going to present us our audit report.
John? Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to present the audit for the year ended June 30th of 22. Our main objective in an audit is to give an opinion on your financial statements, to give an opinion on your compliance with federal and state grants, to report on any non-compliance issues with respect to financial statement reporting, as well as compliance with grants, and as also to report on any internal controls issues. I'm very happy to report that for the 21-22 school year, we have an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which means a clean opinion, which means the financial statements are fairly stated, they're prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and there were no scope limitations in performing the audit. Our opinion on your compliance with major grant programs is also unmodified. Clean opinion, meaning you complied in all material respects with your grant requirements. We had no instances of non-compliance with either financial statement reporting or with compliance with grants. And we had no internal control findings, no matters related to internal controls. The three reports are all considered unmodified, clean reports, and it's the best report you can get in an audit report. Having unmodified or clean reports is obviously a must. Otherwise, it means there's issues. Financially, we had a meeting with the Finance Committee before this meeting and went in great detail. But I will go over the fund balance, and if you want to follow along on page 75 of the bigger book, the clear covered book. Overall, the district improved its financial position at the end of the year, increasing overall fund balances by $492,000 over last year. We started the year at, it's on page 75 of the big book. We started the year with $4,133,000, and we ended the year with $4,626,000. Of those monies, they're segregated into certain categories of fund balance, which have been set aside in some cases by board resolution and in some cases by state statute. And I'll go through the lines. If you go on page 75, I'll go quick because I know you have a long night. The first item on the fund balance was capital reserve of $1,771,337, represents monies the board's put aside to fund future capital projects that are in your long-range facility plans. These monies are restricted, can only be used for capital projects. We also have set aside at the end of the year maintenance reserve of $643,157. These are monies, again, set aside by board resolution, restricted for costs related to required maintenance projects of the school. Different than capital, maintenance projects keep the buildings in their current working condition, where capital assets add value to the asset and extend its life. Maintenance reserve, again, can't be used for anything other than maintenance projects. We also had an emergency reserve of $130,425. That's a reserve put aside. It's the reserve of last resort. In most instances, you need county approval to use that. The only two exceptions are certain costs for health benefits, as well as certain security projects that you do. You also have an unemployment reserve of almost $26,000, $25,717. Those are money set aside to pay for any unemployment claims. The district is self-insured for unemployment and has created a reserve to put aside for any unemployment claims. In addition to these monies, there's money set aside from employees because they contribute towards their unemployment. We maintain that rather than give it to the state because we're self-insured. We use their funds first, and then if we exhaust those funds, we draw down on this $25,717. Excess surplus. In New Jersey, there is a requirement that any money that exceeds a certain percentage at the end of June 30th of 22, it was 4%. After we close the books and we transfer the money into the reserve accounts, anything over 4% has to go into what's called an excess surplus reserve. That is by state statute. The excess surplus at the end of June 30th of 22, which exceeded the 4%, was $516,457. Those monies are restricted and can only be used as a revenue source in the 23-24 budget. So when you start the 23-24 budget process, the minimum amount of fund balance that you must use to balance that budget is $516,457. Cannot be used for any other purpose. That compares to $400,000 of excess surplus that's designated for subsequent year expenditures. The $400,000 represents the excess surplus from June 30th of 21, a year before this audit. Those funds, that $400,000 is being used today in the 22-23 budget to fund expenses of that budget. So on July 1, those funds lose their distinction and no longer exist, as they are now commingled within the budget to fund expenses. The next two items, committed fund balance, assigned fund balances, year-end encumbrances, represents open purchase orders at the end of the year, where we have ordered goods or awarded contracts for services where the goods have not been received at the end of the year or the services have not been rendered. We don't owe anybody money because they haven't completed it, haven't given us the goods, haven't completed the services. However, we have committed and assigned those purchase orders to those purchases, and therefore, when those goods are received and those services are rendered, now we owe those vendors the money. These purchase orders get rolled into the next year's budget. So on July 1 of 22, the budget increased by $298 and $120 by these encumbrances. And as those bills get paid, they get paid against the 22-23 budget against those open purchase orders. That leaves us with unassigned fund balance, $720,820, represents the maximum 4% that the district is allowed to maintain, plus an additional roughly $205,000 of unbudgeted state aid we received during 21-22 that we're allowed to add to this 4%. The key to the 205 is the board by resolution during this year you're in can appropriate that 205 to the budget without seeking county approval. They cannot dip into the 4%. That has to maintain and stay there. These are the monies, the 72820, that are available going forward to fund future expenses. So when you're doing the 23-24 budget, you know you have to use $516,000 of surplus. If you need additional surplus, you draw off the 72820. Financially, the district has some very nice reserves on hand, over $1.7 million, close to $1.8 million for capital projects. The maximum amount in maintenance reserve, you even have an emergency reserve of $130. You can go up to $250. An excess surplus of $516, which is $116,000 more than last year, and you still are at the maximum unassigned. Very financially very sound and very stable condition. No like big increases or decreases, very nice and stable. That's what the rating agencies like to see. Increases, but stability. If there's no questions, I'll go into the recommendations, which are into the smaller report. Real quick, we had 2 recommendations. Again, none of these recommendations rose to the level of internal control issues or reportable instances of noncompliance. On page 11 of the smaller book is a summary of recommendations. The first one is under school purchasing program, and it deals with national cooperative purchasing programs. National cooperative purchasing programs are programs where another governmental entity goes out to bid, and they offer those bid awards to other governments. You don't have to go out to bid. You can use their bid to buy the products. However, there are certain procedures that must be followed when you do a national co-op. First off, you have to do a cost savings analysis. Is the national co-op the cheapest price out there? So you have to do a cost analysis. You have to get all the contract documentation from the national co-op, and you have to do a pre-award notice 10 days before you award this contract to notify any other contractors in the state to let them know you're doing a national co-op. Because they could come in and say, well, I'm cheaper. So our recommendation is that procedures be reviewed and revised to ensure that national cooperative contract awards are procured and approved in accordance with state procurement guidelines. There's a whole local finance notice of the guidelines and the procedures that have to be followed. The second item is under facilities and capital assets. In doing the audit, we have to account for your capital assets. The district maintains an accounting of their capital assets in their system. We maintain it in the audit. The two numbers don't agree. The district's capital assets are different than what's in the audit, and we have to get the two to reconcile. Probably, which was talked at, the Finance Committee is possibly hiring an outside company, but the bottom line is we have to get the two in agreement. So our recommendation is that the capital asset accounting records be reconciled with the audit balances. No repeats, again, no material weaknesses in internal controls, no significant deficiencies, no areas non-compliance. Overall, it's a really good report. Good report for 21-22.
Any questions from the board? Mrs. Walker? Rita, put your mic on.
Under the part about the unemployment compensation reserve.
Right.
Could you explain that again, how that works?
Okay, so there's two types of unemployment plans. There's what's called the contribution plan, where a district will get a form from the government to say, based on experience, you owe so much every quarter. You owe us X amount of your employee's salary every quarter based on experience, and you cut a check to the state of New Jersey.
Based on experience from the
Experience,
teacher?
yes, and they keep the money in the state. State keeps the money. The other option is the reimbursement method, which Oradell is under, which they've adopted many, many years ago, and which many governments in the state of New Jersey have adopted. And in that case, a portion of the employee's deductions stay with the district, and then the district can take budget money and put it into this reserve. And then every quarter, the district gets a bill, and it lists all the people who claimed unemployment who work for the Oradell Public Schools. Once the administration reviews that bill and says, okay, these are legitimate claims, you pay dollar for dollar whatever those claims are. The money first comes out of the employees' reserve, which is not here, and then once that's depleted, it comes out of the district's reserved unemployment account. So you're basically self-insured. In the long run, from our experience, it seems to be cheaper if you maintain the reserve rather than have the state maintain it.
Okay. That was going to be my next question. What would you recommend?
Yeah, I would always, what our experience has always been is this method, the reimbursement method, where you're self-insured, in the long run, seems to be a less costly way to fund unemployment. Now, if there's a massive layoffs, that's a different story, but I don't think that's happening. The district has always had a reserve. We have 67,000 of employees' money to pay claims first, and then we have this to dip in second. And the thing is, over the last 2 years, there have been no unemployment bills submitted. We just got them. During COVID, the state was not sending bills out. They were assessing whether the federal government was going to pay for your claims. And what it seems to happen is the federal government, they're going to use grant money from the federal government to pay 50% of your claims.
And where do they get the grant money?
It's the American Rescue Plan money from the federal government. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Bliss.
Thank you.
We'll see you next year.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris, for coming.
Thanks.
Take care.
Nice.
Yes, thank you. Good job, John. We can thank our business administrator for a clean audit. All right, moving to superintendent's report.
Okay, I'm going to start my report today by giving you a little bit of an update of what I've been sharing over the past few weeks in your weekly board update. But sometimes I think that is a little piece here and a little piece there, and sometimes it's nice to put it together. So if some of this sounds familiar, it should, but I thought sometimes I'd like to be able to share with you how excited I am with some of the work that's being done in the Creative Thinkers Lab. So let's just start by talking about why we even have a Creative Thinkers Lab. So as a board, you decided to set a goal on increasing student engagement through the implementation of an inquiry approach to learning. And the reason I applauded that goal versus just a STEM goal is because STEM is not the goal. The goal is engaged learning. So I started to think about why is that important. As teachers, we say it all the time, like hands-on learning is important, STEM is important. So I started to do a little research again, just to ground it in some data. And, hands-on learning it engages students. It engages the left side of the brain and it engages the right side of the brain. And by doing so, it creates better connections and it stores information. It definitely is going to improve attention. And if we think of ourselves and we think of the high school class or the college class where the professor was droning on, well, nobody learns well that way. So hands-on learning takes that away. And of course, it encourages teamwork and critical thinking. So then when we think about a STEM approach, we take that hands-on approach and we add another layer to it. So we're fostering innovation and creativity. We're encouraging that teamwork again. And the piece that I really liked was encouraging knowledge application. Very often in our classrooms when we learn hands-on learning, it's to help us learn the material. So in mathematics, we always talk about how first we want to touch, okay? Then we move to the visual representation, and then we move to the concrete. That's how learning happens. STEM, now we're applying what we've learned. So we're using the hands-on to learn the information, but we're also using the hands-on to apply it to another level. It encourages adaptation. It helps us see what we've learned and how it translates to something else. If you ever want to see this in action, you should visit Odyssey of the Mind. Because when they're building a car, and something happens, they immediately adapt to something else they've learned. And it also builds resilience. And as you know, this is very dear to my heart because I believe if we teach our kids anything, we're going to teach them to be resilient because that is the #1 skill that will get them through everything. So I wanted to share some of the work that has been done in the Creative Thinkers Lab. So our kindergartners, they did some of the name challenge, and they've been working with Kibo. They've done some password safety, and they have a huge project coming at the end of this year. You'll remember at our professional development day when we had the small group PD sessions that the teachers facilitated, they really started to look at where can we naturally bring STEM into our curriculum. And by nature, kindergarten always does community helpers. We study communities in kindergarten, everyone studies communities in kindergarten. And they've started to talk about how can we really build those communities? How can we take them and not just draw the community? How can we actually use the blocks and the big cereal boxes to build communities in our classrooms? So that will be a huge part of the spring in kindergarten. In first grade, you saw this week that our first graders made Cupid's bow. And again, everything in first grade is about trying, something doesn't work, and you try it again. Okay? They've also started coding, and they will continue with Kibo in kindergarten, in first grade. I am hoping to bring students to a board meeting to show you Kibo, because I talk about it all the time, and to show you Dash. I didn't know if they'd want to sit through the auditor, so I thought maybe not this meeting. Our second graders do a lot more of what our first graders did because it's new this year. So we have to lay the same foundation with them. But they're also applying the science skills from their curriculum to what they're doing. So over the week before Valentine's Day, they were studying states of matter. So they actually made bath bombs in the Creative Thinkers Lab. Bath bombs. You got it. They're also doing some coding and working with Kibo. Third grade is my favorite year, and I can't figure out if I am just always in that hallway when third grade has Creative Thinkers Lab, because I think I've got more pictures on my phone of third graders than I know what to do with right now. But one of my favorite projects that the third graders did this year was called Weathering the House. So you'll know the PTA funded John Marshall to come in to talk to our third graders. He is a weatherman, and weather is one of their science units. So they applied what they know about weather to build structures that would protect a house if certain elements hit. And what I like here is they were drawing the diagram of what their house would look like before they began to actually build the house. Before the winter break, tied to their science unit on electricity, they made circuits, and their snowmen, if their circuits were accurate and closed, lit up. They are currently coding. They have moved from coding off the computer, where we're just giving directions, to using Blockly, which is a software application, to code. And where our kindergarten and first graders and our second graders this year too are using Kibo. Our second graders move to Dash which is a blue robot that they program what that robot needs to do. So he might move through a maze. He has challenges that he has to accomplish, and each mission is a different challenge. Our fourth graders are the ones who are going to benefit the most from one of the grants we were awarded. As I shared earlier in the year, Mrs. Cataldo applied for 2 grants. One is the Green Our Planet grant, and one was a hydroponics gardening grant. And again, we were very lucky. As you know, we have a wonderfully supportive PTA, and both grants asked for some co-funding, and the PTA said, if you get these grants, we will do the co-funding for you. So the 4th grade now has garden setups in their classroom, and they will also be doing the gardening in the actual garden this year. And if they are successful, unlike in past years where we've assigned them what to plant, they will decide what to plant. And if they are successful, they will have a farmer's market this spring, because part of the state standards requires that finance connection. We just hope they're successful. And so they've just started that with looking at soil. And again, you see that we're doing something, but we're also making sure we're using the skills of the STEM process. We're drawing it, we're planning it out. Our 5th graders are the ones who will be doing hydroponics. And the hydroponics setup is in Ms. Cataldo's in the STEM lab right now. So they just started this by researching what hydroponics was. So let's see if we can. I love a creative ending to anything. And our 6th graders, as you have heard time and time again, are working on their New Jersey School Board Steam Tank Challenge. And those who will not be competing with Steam Tank are also doing a project. It is the Shark Tank Challenge. And they are using our 3D printer right now to make pieces for whatever they have designed for the prototype of it. Uh-oh. There we go. So some of our next steps, right now, we're learning a lot. The first year you do anything, you learn a lot. And so we're learning about some of our timing was off. So we've learned that in 6th grade, we're letting our Steam Tank project go really long. And so next year we need to start it in September, we need to be done in December. We're learning where in the curriculum we can add more, because as our teachers are in the Creative Thinkers Lab, and that's what we wanted them to see some things and go, wait, we can add this here also, like what happened in kindergarten with the community centers. And we're all just trying to learn a lot right now. We have 3 teachers actually, who have been taking a lot of free professional development. Montclair State offers a lot of work on STEM, and I've scheduled to go to a workshop there in next month, but at night, a lot of them are taking free webinars because, again, we just want to know more to figure out what more we can do. So the other piece that we're really looking at right now, just is as appropriate when you're starting a new program, is auditing what do we have. Because as schools are famous for just getting something and then getting something and then getting something and never taking a time to look at the aerial view and saying, what do we have? What is it doing? What do we need? So as I said, we have Kibo as a hands-on resource to teach programming in kindergarten. We program our robot, it tells us what to do. We take that up a notch in 2nd and 3rd grade with Dash and Dot, and the Wonder Workshop does the same exact thing. We're teaching through coding and programming. What we realized when we looked at what the 4th through 6th graders were doing is there wasn't a lot of that. But then we realized it's because we didn't have a great resource. So again, through a generous donation from the PTA, we will be getting microbits in 4th through 6th grade, and that will be our next level up. We've also asked TEQ, which is an educational technology company, to come in and look at everything we have. So we might have some Ozobots from 3 years ago. We might have this from a lunchtime fun workshop 4 years ago. look at everything and tell us, this is the one piece you're missing. This is your next purchase. And they have agreed to come in the upcoming month. So that's kind of where we are. Do you have any questions or comments before I? Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I have one
That's
question.
okay, please.
Yeah, so in terms of just the auditing process itself, how long do you expect that to run?
Right now, I'm hoping to have, as soon as TEQ comes in, I'd like to actually know what's next and put the plan together. So the audit's kind of done for us right now, for where we are right now, right, when TEQ comes in. Is
Okay,
that what
so-
you're?
Yeah, so we know what resources we have for 4th and 6th grade, because I see those question marks there. on
Yes.
the- Okay,
And that was the question we had. Microbits is what we'll be adding.
okay, okay, so.
Now, there may be more to add. I know some teachers who would like to see us add the Lego robotics to it, but microbits will be the next add, and then TEQ will come in and look at everything and say to us, this is what we think makes sense next.
So they're going to come in and look at the audited list?
They're going to come in, yeah.
Okay,
They've asked us to show them everything we have, and the reason they like to come in is they bring their toys with them, because it helps us if we can not just listen to them and hear them, but if we can actually touch it and think about our students and what they might gravitate towards.
okay.
So are there third-party curriculums that kind of build, like we did the Open Circle, and one of the reasons we liked Open Circle is because it was going to use a common language throughout. And this looks awesome. It seems like we're really being thoughtful and, deliberate about how we're adding. I'm just wondering, are we also, or have we been looking at third-party options that would have more of an integrated stepped approach that's already built within, as opposed to this approach?
I'm going to have to get back to you because Mrs. Cataldo has looked at a lot of things. So, for example, there's an entire book on how SEL and STEM can be interwoven and grow through the grades. But that's a book and theoretical, right? So if you're asking, is there a curriculum package? I'm not sure, so let me ask her what else she
Okay.
has looked at.
Thanks.
Okay. So a little bit more about some of the things I mentioned, just because it involves you, is that March 8th and 9th are 12 STEAM Tank teams will be presenting. I have been told that we will be given a Zoom link because that's a virtual competition, so I will share that Zoom link with you in case you would like to see them compete. And then our entire 6th grade will be participating in Shark Tank Challenge in May. And if any board members would like to act as a judge, let me know. They have told me that you do not have to commit for the entire day. They'll cycle you through because it will be a very long day. Every team has 5 minutes to present and then 5 to 10 minutes to be questioned by the judges.
Do we have a date on?
I'll get back. You know what? I will put it in this week's board update because I know it's May and I don't know if they've chosen an exact date.
Okay, thank you.
Also, along the lines of some dates, March 4th, our Odyssey of the Mind teams will be competing at the regional tournament in Branchville. They are also someone who, if you don't know a lot about Odyssey, and sometimes you see them here, but to really see them, you don't see the process that they're going through. If you'd ever like to see Odyssey, if you reach out to Ms. Sham or if you reach out to me, the kids actually benefit the more they talk about their project, because when you compete in the long-term portion of the Odyssey of the Mind tournament, the last part is the judges asking you questions. You have to be able to speak about why something works. How did you choose to do that? What was the process? What was the challenges? So the more often we ask them to those questions, the better they do during it. And yeah. Yeah, and some of their props are absolutely beautiful. There's like an Odyssey code. It's an unwritten code that I'm not allowed to photograph them in case another team steals our ideas. And if you think we're being neurotic, no, like everyone believes that in the Odyssey world, because I'd love for you to see some of what they've created and the resource, this little resource like a can, how that has turned into an entire background. And also Friday is the Wizards game, and we have 5 players that will be representing the Oradell Public School Panthers. Mr. Mamora will be playing, Mr. Hagopian will be playing, Mr. Butcher will be playing, Mr. Mardini will be playing, I will be playing, and we'll be coached by our very own Mrs. Hawley, because she is known throughout the land for her basketball prowess. And finally, I'm proud to share that on Monday we had our Wear a Pair, Share a Pair event, which was organized by our student government. We have already begun working on our second newsletter, and our 2 student government presidents will be co-writing a short article about Wear a Pair, Share a Pair. They counted today, and they collected 453 pairs of pajamas that will be donated to students, children who are in foster care. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Marmora.
Thank you. Just wanted to note to let everybody know that the financial disclosure statements have been released, so you've probably seen emails from me with a unique password to get in and complete them. So you do have until April 30th to complete them, but the sooner the better. Also, just wanted to thank our auditors, Lurch, Vinci, and Bliss. Not only do they do our audit, but they also provide guidance all year round. I'm constantly on the phone with them, just picking their brain, asking questions, so I appreciate the help that they give all year. Also, for you guys, for the support from the board, I appreciate that, and Ms. Bozius. And then finally, our business office, past and present, so Amanda Ernst and Stephanie Guzman, who done an amazing job in the business office, and I can't say enough good things about them. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving to minutes, review of January 18th. Any questions or comments, please email Mr. Marmara. We have the approval for January 4th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Griffin. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Acosta? Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yeah.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes. Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Darian.
Yes. You know, I sat here a while back. I took a look around and I said, you know, this room is going to change. And it wound up in the dumpster, pretty much almost all the interior. And we're back, and I think it looks pretty good. So I'm happy about that. I know we're not finished, but we're almost there. And then also in your packet is our minutes from our last B&G meeting. We talked about a lot of things. You know, we're building on this momentum, and we're going forward. Some is, you know, ROD grants we're looking from the state. You know, that's actually items D15 in the finance section. But we're looking at improving the NPR, the stairwells, so on and so forth. So we talked about a lot of things, and you'll see that in your packet. So with all that said, I'd like to introduce items B1 for facility use.
Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Acosta? Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing? Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker? Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes. Curriculum, Mrs. Negum.
Nothing to report at this time.
Do you want to make a motion? Do you want to?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would like to present item C1.
Second.
Second by Mr. Griffin. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Acosta? Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing? Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yeah.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes. Finance, Mr. Griffin.
We are having tons of meetings now. It's right in the heart of the budget season. So, you know, it's fun. You know, John and I get our boxing gloves on and kind of fight it out for things. But in general, I think that the process is going well. Before I present these items here, you should have the notes from the last meeting in your packet, and then we met again tonight. And those notes will be forthcoming. But before I make a motion for these items. I know Mr. Momora had a couple of items that he wanted to clarify, so I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Momora.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. So tonight, just like to start with D6, of course, to thank our always gracious PTA for their mini grant. Going to D7 and D8. So they are very cumbersome and long resolutions tonight. And basically, to paraphrase, is we work with, it's a company called ACES through New Jersey School Boards. And what they are is a cooperative pricing system for our energy fees, heat for natural gas and electricity. So basically, they go out to bid on our behalf and try to get the best pricing. And if they do, then it's up to us if we want to accept it and go with another company. So, for example, PSE&G is not the only company that we can go with. There's other companies that do bid and have been awarded. And also, so for D11, also that's a unique resolution. So each year when we go through and we do the budget process, there's a reimbursement process through the New Jersey Department of Education called SEMI. And basically what that is it's a reimbursement for special and related service fees that the district incurs during the school year. The state realizes that it's a very involved process, and it's actually a process that is tracked all year long. And they will allow you, if you have less than 40 students that qualify for this, you can apply for a waiver. So that's what D11 is representing. We're going to be sending a letter to the Bergen County Superintendent just asking if we can waive the requirement. And then finally, what Mr. Darian briefly touched on for D15, with the announcement of the ROD grants from the state, we're trying to get in as quickly as possible. It's on a first-come, first-served basis. So we're putting in an approval for our architect, Land Associates, to submit the application. It's going to be a replacement project for our district's Oradell systems.
Thank you, Mr. Momora. Before I make the motion, I also just want to, say big thank you to the PTA. On D6, you can see the mini grants that they are offering to us. It's amazing the stuff that the PTA has done. $7,700 worth of funding for really incredible programming for the school. So thank you to the PTA. And with that, I would like to make a motion for us to consider D1 through D15.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions? Mrs. Needham?
On D15, do we expect all of the HVAC upgrades to be funded through that grant, or would it be partial?
It's a 40% grant generally.
Okay.
So we have 8 Airedales. The building has a hodgepodge of HVAC systems. We upgraded all the classrooms have univents. Those were all replaced. We put air conditioning in here as an example. But there are these units that both heat and air conditioned, and they sit in a window. And so we have 8 classrooms with those units. They're made in England, and their prices are skyrocketing. And so in order for us to repair them or replace them, it's going to cost a lot more than we anticipated. So with the $350 million that was announced by the state that's available for ROD grants, we thought we'd submit this application. And hopefully we'll get the full 40%. They have this, have you ever seen those cups with the ball and they move it around and you're waiting to get, and then oops, you didn't get it. So it turns out something else, but that's how they play. But it's, at least it's something, so.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I have a question on D7, D8 for ACES, the ACES program. We've used them in the past. I don't believe they're new, right?
Yes, yep, we've used them in the past.
So have you ever done an analysis to see how they compare to other companies, or do we look around?
So they're offered through New Jersey School Boards Association. There's not any other companies that I'm aware of. So
Have you ever compared their rates up to PSE&G or anyone
Yes.
else? Do you know? That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. You've compared?
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downey?
Yeah.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, Mr. Walsh is away. Personnel, Mrs. Walker.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to introduce F1.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. Griffin. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Acosta? Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downey? Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yeah.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, policy, Mrs. Norian is away, but I do know we need to set a policy meeting as soon as she comes back. Public relations, Mrs. Acosta? No report. Task force, Mr. Griffin?
No report.
Open to the public? Any old or new business from the board? Mrs. Walker?
Just to reiterate what Ms. Bozio said about Monday night, the Rotary is sponsoring along with the PTA a stellar night of basketball, and I'm so happy to hear we have a team already in place. As a member of Rotary, we've been very busy making bags that people are going to get as you come in with goodies in the bags, and the names of the sponsors. We have $250 sponsors, and their names will be on these big banners. And those that paid $100 to sponsor us, they'll be on these bags that they'll be given out. Also, we're requesting that when you come, if you could bring some sort of a canned good or some kind of food, would be really appreciated. And they're really asking for basically peanut butter and tuna fish seem to be the big items. They're high in protein, so to be able to give out. So that we would really appreciate. And also, Ms. Bozio's, the question we had was, when email goes out, or Mrs. Hawley, when emails go out weekly, daily, whatever you need to, do they also go to students who are registered in the district but not going to school in the district?
Do you mean students who are special education out of district, or do you mean, yes, they are on the community blast list.
They are on the community blast list. Okay, because it was just brought to our attention that maybe there were some students that didn't know about this until all of a sudden they heard.
The only group that may not have gotten it and is incoming, like if you've pre-registered for kindergarten next year, they're on a separate list and they would need to be blasted separately.
Right, well,
But we
they're not
didn't do
a
that.
school member
Yeah, no,
yet
they
anyway,
didn't do
so-
that.
Right.
Mrs. Hall, oops.
Thank you.
Because this was a PTA-sponsored event, the blast went first from the PTA. So before I could put it in my community blast, because the PTA blasted it out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, before I could put it in my blast, which comes out more towards the weekend, the tickets had already been sold out.
Right.
So when I went to announce it, I went to check and see how many tickets were remaining, and there were none remaining. So we can look at making sure that the out-of-district students are also, if their families are members of the PTA, they should receive those blasts.
Right, right. It's just something to think about. And we've made appropriations even for this event, that those students that would like to come that maybe didn't get the blast or the email will be accommodated. So,
I think because the community is so excited, because we haven't had this event in so long, that the tickets literally sold out within 2 days.
yeah. Good, thank you.
Any other old or new business? I have a question. Mr. Walsh, is he going to be going March 4th to the Odyssey? And did we approve any
We-
travel expenses for him?
Yes, we approved both Mr. Walsh and Mr. Griffin.
Are they on our thing?
I don't think it's this agenda. I feel like we approved you earlier on the agenda. Do you remember that, Mr. Griffin?
I don't remember, actually. I know I'm going, so.
I'm pretty sure that they were on an agenda, but I will check and make sure it's
We
not
have to
this
know
one.
tonight because it's,
give me a second.
our next meeting is after.
It's the last one.
I know I had mentioned
Mr.
it.
Butcher vaguely remembers, so I trust him. Thank you, Mr. Butcher.
Our last meeting, the 18th?
Yes.
So
And I
that would
called
be
Jeff
our
right
minutes
before and
here.
asked him where it should go.
So that would be
And they're
in
both on, the January 18th agenda. They're right here.
personnel? Okay, all right. Any other old or new business? Mrs. Walker?
I have one other thing. In reading my NEA journal and JEA journal, there was an article that said that best practices in forming a threat against assessment teams. So the state is setting up best practices that need to be in place by September.
Yes, which is why we began training our administration and the staff that will sit on the threat assessment team this past summer. The board will set a policy before September that will guide the threat assessment team, but we've already taken care of making sure that who's mandated to sit on it has attended the full-day training.
Perfect, good, thank you.
Any other old or new business? We do need to go into a closed session for both a legal issue and a student issue. So if someone wants, Mr. Darian, would you like to make the motion?
I make a motion that we go into closed session.
I second.
Second by Mr. Griffin. All in favor? Aye.
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 We will not be taking any action after.
Oh, I saw it.